Greetings, humans. You have entered the Command Zone, your destination for all aspects of Elder Dragon Highlander. Enjoy your stay.
Hello, people. My name is Jimmy Wong, and welcome back to another episode of the CommandCast. I'm here with my co-host,
Josh Lee Kwai. What up, what up?
And we have a brand new guest today. What is your name?
Guest.
Yes.
James Pianka. Nice to meet you guys.
Nice. James, how are you doing today?
Doing pretty well. It's a good day in Los Angeles.
Nice.
So, James, do you want to explain to everybody what you do for Wizards and Magic?
I am a new addition to the creative text team, which is responsible for the card names and the flavor text.
Ooh, cool. The card names and the flavor text.
Pretty sweet.
Right.
See, before you came on to this show, I had no idea that the people that wrote the card names also did the flavor text, and they're so intertwined.
I didn't know that either until I got the job. I thought it was only flavor text. I was delighted to find out that I would be able to submit the card names as well.
Now, I'm guessing you're a writer by
am.
trade. Nice.
I am, yes.
You got a degree in writing?
I just completed an MFA in creative writing from CalArts with an integrated media concentration. Very thoroughly deep into a novel. I've worked in newspaper journalism. I right now work for a branding and marketing firm as the lead writer, and I do freelance narrative design for other game companies in the gaming industry. Right now, I'm working with a company called Abracom in Belgium.
Belgium.
Yeah, I met them at the GDC. They're making a digital TCG called Feria, and it's browser-based, and it's actually gorgeous, like beautiful, lush environments. The music is really atmospheric, and they love Magic. They were stoked that I had done this, and I'm sort of their full-service guy. I'm right now composing and editing lore for public consumption.
Nice.
Them, yeah.
Well,
So how did you get into specifically like Magic and Wizards, and like what's your inroad to even start to do that?
Well, I've been playing Magic, for years, and I know the game and the story fairly well. And in the summer before I went off to start this MFA, this writing degree, I had an essay in my heart that I wanted to write, but I didn't have the language for it. I didn't have the terminology for it. It was basically, I had been sort of wrestling with the question of why would you play with analog media? Why would you play with cardboard in 2014 when you have such a wealth of great gaming options with digitality and all of the interesting new dynamics that medium entails and enables? And so I ended up writing this essay, in the first semester at CalArts, in a class. Some of the readings informed me, gave me some language I could use, gave me some frameworks, and I wrote a very dry, kind of ponderous academic essay called "In Defense of Cardboard: Trading Card Games as a Remedy for Digital Fatigue."
Yeah,
digital fatigue.
Like
Just like stare at screens all day, and sometimes it's nice to come home and sit at a table with a cup of coffee and like something in my hand. And cards really do have this like physical art object quality to them. That's why people like foils, I think. But essentially, I wrote this essay and I shopped it around online. I was looking for some kind of non-gaming platforms and venues. I was looking for kind of academic journals, like media studies journals. I wasn't writing for a Magic playing audience. I was writing. I was trying to explain this, to answer this question, and kind of explain myself to others.
Right.
And it ended up getting picked up at GatheringMagic.com, which is fairly
big
cool
Magic website.
Yeah,
Yeah,
fairly
definitely.
cool Magic venue, and the editor there asked me to stick around, and he was like, I'd like to do more of this kind of long-form theory-based Magic journalism, as such. If you want to stick around as a staff writer, I'd be welcome. You'd be welcome to. So I was stoked on that, and I stayed there. And there actually is a fairly robust community there of creative text writers on that team. And I met them. We all connected on Twitter and got some relationships off the ground. And eventually, one of them was like, here is the in. And so I followed up on it. I applied and began my relationship with Creative, and they gave me a test, and I passed that test. And
can you talk about the test? That is fascinating. I like the idea of a test.
I can probably not talk about the test.
But there was a test.
There was a test.
I'm fine with that.
I produced writing for them that.
Oh, so the test isn't like Magic knowledge or past flavor knowledge or anything like that?
No,
it's
no.
Mostly because I was like, man,
that would be
they
so
can go in a lot of different directions.
No, it wasn't a lore trivia contest.
my
Because I
gosh.
would imagine like one of the requirements. Well, here, let me ask you this first. Like you said, you played Magic for years, but how did you get into Magic? Like how many years? Like
well, I played as a kid. I mean, I was in 5th grade, like playing cards on the playground.
So you've been playing for a long, long time.
I stopped for almost a decade. With a lot of people, most of my peers stopped, and then I was in college, and a friend of mine came back to the dorm one day, and he had just come back from a game store where he had been drafting.
Nice.
And he put them down, and I was looking. I was like, these are actually awesome. Again, I remember why I did this, and then I started playing, and I started making a bunch of casual decks, and eventually went to a store and Started going to FNMs, and the rest is history.
Nice.
Well, that's a funny thing about Magic. Like, I think anybody who had early experience with it, I mean, I'm the exact same way. Like, once that you've had that itch, like, it's going to pop back up, like, at some point in your life when you see them again. Like, I was the same way. Like, started out basically when Magic started, fell away from it, then years and years later, you pick up some cards, you look at them, and it's like all of a sudden that part of your brain just turns on, and you're like, I got to scratch that itch again, and then it's just there's something about the game that just keeps calling you back.
I think it was my first introduction to the world of this kind of game. Like afterwards, I remember I played World of Warcraft, I played MMOs, trying to scratch that same itch, but nothing really satisfied it as much as cracking cardboard did.
Oh man, there's nothing like it. It's great.
So let me ask you, okay, like we were talking about the test, like. I mean, it seems like you need a lot of knowledge about the lore and the story. Like I said, I've been playing Magic since the start. I don't know much about like the cohesive story of Magic. Like I know bits and pieces, that I've heard here and there, but I've never like picked up like a huge volume that says, okay, here's how it goes A to B to C. I mean, I know about the Urza Mishra War and some of the Planeswalker lore, and you know
about the Eldrazi.
The Eldrazi, and and sort of the recent stuff like Theros makes it's easy. That makes a lot of sense. But man,
Theros is clean.
There's a whole bunch of stuff. Like, how much of that did you have to like go into like study mode for a while to like what do they require?
Not really. I'm learning as I go constantly. I make great use of the various lore wikis that are available online, and a lot of the times as I'm writing, we'll have a card concept and I'll be like, okay, this quote, the voice of this quote, I need like a blue trickster. So then I'll go into the lore and I'll be looking through the planes. I'll be like, okay, like where can I find someone? Where's like an in-game location that is producing this type of mage? Like I need like trickster mages, and so I'll be like, oh, Vesva, like let me go read about that for a while, and then I'll go like I'll wander over there, and I'll just come out with something very specific that was kind of came from a place of generality, but I'll follow that to the correct place in the lore.
Now that's I find that really just awesome, because you of course have to build upon prior lore to build new lore. And so at what point do you actually say like, okay, I think I've decoded where this person should come from, what this person is like when do you decide, all right, this is when it becomes my character? Like there is a breaking apart point where you are creating new lore. Right.
It's sort of gray, and I wonder. It's certainly up to the creative's discretion. Like they are the arbiters, and it's ultimately their game. And so you'll submit content, and you'll submit an idea, and you'll be building upon something, and you'll maybe describe sort of a dynamic of an institution, or like a kind of quality of a group of people, and you're making an imposition. You're really adding something to that world. And creative, as the arbiters of it, as when they're reviewing the text and choosing what to actually print and what to truly give birth to, can just be like, no, I don't like that. Or they can be like, oh, that's awesome. Like, I really appreciate that. Let's run with that. Let's incorporate that into the mythos. And so, it's when you really do come up with an original addition to it, and they accept it, it's a wonderful feeling.
Oh, I'm sure. Yeah. Absolutely.
But it is totally their call.
Yeah. At the end of the day, of course. Yeah.
So how does it work, like, step by step? Like, do you see a card? Does it have full art? Do you see mechanics? Do you see, like, the text of a card? Do you see, like, casting costs and everything? Like, how early on are we talking? Like, can you bring us through the process a little bit, obviously without getting specific?
Right. I can do so with a slight degree of distance. Basically, there is an online database, which all the writers log into, and we basically have the set available to us in various stages of completion. So we might see a card fully fleshed out.
Right.
It'll have fully completed art, and all that's left is our stuff. It might just be the mechanics and the place with a placeholder image and with the art, and it's actually this hilarious shot of Martha Stewart that you see all the time. It's just it's actually terrible to see her face, because you want to see the art. You want to see it.
It helps you, right? Yeah. You want as much as you can.
But, I wonder how many cards have been subconsciously influenced by Martha in this case.
I wonder too. That's actually
why
a great
Martha
question.
Stewart?
I don't know. It's a joke.
It's that joke.
It's a fun image. Yeah.
It's mechanically the cards are fully intact. Casting cost. Creature types, everything. What the card does, R&D has settled on completely by the time it gets to us. And we are privy to the same art direction that the artists get. Presumably, the artists might actually get more than what we see, but we see art direction that I imagine is written for an illustrator. And it's like, show us this kind of a mage standing on this platform, whatever.
So you see the art direction also.
We see the art direction. It's
when
really
it's not
helpful.
Martha Stewart.
If we don't get Martha Stewart, we at least get the art direction. And you really need it. It's essential.
Right,
it's
absolutely.
100% essential. And I think
Well, yeah, if the name and everything doesn't match up with the art, then you've got
absolutely. And then there's the atmosphere, there's this tone, and it just really informs your voicing.
Is there like a document that tells you the story of the set? I mean, for instance, we know Khans of Tarkir is a wedge set. We know it's about warring clans. We know, sort of, I don't know, one's in the desert, one looks like they're lizard people. Like, do they give you like a big thing that says, okay, here's the story of the set, like, so that you can start to like?
We are very prepared when we begin writing.
Right. I think that's a great answer. Yeah.
We have a great deal of material to work with, and from which to draw our ideas and our content.
Now, when you're submitting for a card, I mean, obviously the flavor text and all that. Like, what makes you decide between like, okay, this is going to be someone's quote saying like Kiora is going to say something about this person in quotes, or it's something that the character itself on the card is saying?
Well, Wizards creative asks of us to each provide variety on a card-by-card basis. Like, you submit multiple submissions for quotes, for names and quotes for each card, and
really quick, how many people are working on the same set at any given time?
It varies on a set-by-set basis.
Are we talking like 100 people, or are we talking like 10 or less?
Much smaller, single digits.
Oh, okay.
Okay. It's a very tight hand-selected team of writers.
Are you seeing what the other people are submitting?
Yes, and that's actually a great dynamic because it's there to prevent redundancy.
Right,
so
that makes sense.
And like, you get in there and it's like, God of Revels, like that, I'm not going to submit that. Someone else has done that. And if we didn't see that, we might all submit that.
Right.
That might be, they might get however many writers there were on the team.
Right.
Of that same thing, and that really impoverishes the submission pool for them. And so,
definitely, and also being able to see the other writer submissions, I'm guessing, also helps you keep inside your own world. So you're sort of building your own grammar and sort of pacing for your own flavor text in relation to each other,
or riff off each other. Build on each other. Like if someone's got a cool character that they made up in a quote and they're attributing quotes to it, like maybe make up something else and run with that. And like it's great. And there's no. It should be friendly. It should be it should be totally friendly and collaborative.
Right.
And of course, there's a little bit of competition because it's like, you all want the names. You all want it. It's exciting. But
yeah. Well, that's actually another interesting thing I want to ask about, and that because you're starting from a different, you're coming at the story and the characters from a different standpoint, which is the mechanics of how they work,
right?
And not like we're starting from the ground up. This is this person in relation to this person, et cetera, et cetera. You can sort of just add names to the mix. I mean, what does that allow you as a writer? Is it freeing? Is it scary? I can imagine that's a lot of emotions.
It's exciting. It's for me. I mean, I found it a wholly positive experience. For Khans, I tried to create a sort of repeated cast of characters, to whom I would attribute quotes as I proceeded through them, and I'd be like, I would see a card and I would have this some sassy quote that I would write for it, and I'd be like, oh, that's totally this guy's voice, and it would be his quote, and I would sort of scatter those submissions across the whole set.
But you're creating characters with their own voice.
Right.
That's very interesting. Is that risky, though, from your standpoint of, like, if they don't like that voice, all the submissions for that one voice are gone, right?
They have the ability to edit anything you do. So they could delete the attribution. They can change a lot of it. A lot of my acceptances from Khans were edited in order to match their wizard, creative's voice.
They do their own pass, basically, at the end.
Yeah,
definitely.
Well, also, if they're taking from a certain number of people, they need to unify it, right? So,
right. And they might just throw away all our submissions entirely and keep with the working title. Like
that happens.
Yes, that happens. And I imagine God of Revels was set in stone from the moment that Xenagos was conceived as a character. Khans is actually my first set. I have not actually seen a card in print yet. I am so excited for this set to print.
I hope you get many foils of that card.
Do you know at this point exactly which of yours were?
Yes,
okay,
I know
that's pretty cool.
And I can say that one of the pieces of art that has been spoiled is a card that I named. They didn't spoil the name, and I won't say which piece of art it was, but I was very excited to see that.
Very awesome. That's great.
Awesome.
That's
We're gonna have to check back in with you after it comes out, so you can tell us maybe.
Definitely.
Definitely.
I'm gonna have to find a creative way to display. The portfolio of work that made it through.
Do you find yourself going back to cards in the past and looking at them as sort of inspiration?
Constantly.
What's a favorite go-to card where you're like, man, the flavor text or the name of this card is great, and I'm trying to replicate that when I can, or draw inspiration from that when I can?
I show people Goblin Assassin a lot. It's kind of a weird card.
Flip a coin, right?
Yeah, I don't even remember. It's a coin flip card. I don't even remember what set it's in. I just pull it up as a demonstration to particularly non-Magic players to be like, okay, this is what flavor text does. Like, here curious how it narrativizes
what's the flavor
the
text
card.
on the Goblin Assassin for those that don't know?
Well, first the card. It's really important what the card does.
Right.
It's
an amazing creature. I run it in my
it's
Norn
a
deck.
red goblin guy, and you flip a coin to, and you choose a creature, I believe, and you flip a coin, and if you get it right, he kills the creature, and if not, he kills some other creature. It's like he's really bad at his job. He's a terrible assassin.
Right. Well, actually, no. I have it here. So it's
cool.
3 and 2 red for a 2/2. It's from Legions.
Nice.
And it's whenever Goblin Assassin or another Goblin comes into play, each player flips a coin. Each player whose coin comes up tails sacrifices a creature.
Right.
So anytime any Goblin comes into play, this guy kills or may potentially kill a lot of people.
Right. So the quote on it is, would you like to read it?
Yeah. The more victims he kills, the more likely he is to get the right one.
Exactly. So
It's pretty good.
it's so goblins, and it just perfectly explains what that card.
My favorite
set out to do.
flavor
Yeah.
text of all time is a goblin. It's Goblin Grenade. It's
Yeah.
The
Oh,
text
yes.
is, if only we could teach him to throw the blasted things.
Yeah, exactly. Honestly, I feel like goblins, as a race, as a trope in fantasy, I think are handled with nowhere near the amount of affection and originality than elsewhere in the genre than they are in Magic. I think.
Yeah. Oh, I agree.
I think
full-heartedly.
goblins are most at home in Magic.
Yeah, definitely. And I remember when I got back into the game, I was like, oh, cool, like a Greek god mythology set. Like I saw what the sets were called. Even just saying Theros, I was like, mythology? Greek gods?
Right.
Without even having to see a single card from the set. So I was really happy because it was so flavorful. All the god cards I thought were really fascinating in the way, and the enchantment creature idea. So at first when I saw it, I was like, this is a really cool idea. This makes a lot of sense for a god to only be active when there are enough people on the field, like chanting that person's name.
Right.
It felt very flavorful in that way. So sometimes I'm thinking, though, you get a card with mechanic, and the flavor text that you want to make for it may betray what you think it actually should be. Does that ever happen? Where the flavor text sort of reverses what you want to do with the mechanic, or the mechanic does something where you're like, well, I kind of want the flavor to be more in this realm.
I mean, again, it is, as a writer on this team, it is not my game. And
Right.
ultimately, I'm playing by their rules, and at the end of the day, you're also kind of writing in their voice a little bit. Like you learn the naming conventions.
Mm-hmm.
Where you're making little compound adjectives to modify it, like Thrinax or whatever the noun is that follows it. So you kind of play by their rules, and it's actually it's a writing prompt each time, and
That's awesome. Yeah.
And I think that's actually part of the one of the things you learn as as an artist who has monetized and is continuing to be professional and actually live off of art making. You don't exist in a vacuum.
It's almost impossible to make your living at art if you're going to be uncompromising.
Oh, absolutely.
Oh,
yeah.
yeah.
No one's gonna want to work with you.
You might make some weird art too. Let's not kid around. Sometimes having
It's not
borders in
impossible.
place-
It's just almost impossible.
yeah,
Yeah.
for the select few.
You can do it, but you almost have to earn it.
Yeah.
And
Oh
I'm-
yeah. You can almost never start out by doing that,
yeah.
and you can very rarely ever get to the point
Get to
where
the
you're
point.
where you are like that. But
I mean, I'm only 26.
Well,
I'm
it's a
still
mature
new
standpoint
this,
to
this
have.
field.
Yeah,
Yeah.
definitely. So do you think? Oh yeah, go for it.
When you look at a card, when you go to the page and you bring it up, and whatever's there's a mechanic, there's a temporary name, there's Martha Stewart, whatever there is. Like, what's your first step? Is like, okay, I'm gonna start to tackle this. Like, what's the thought process behind how do I begin to come up with what the flavor text or the name might be?
I actually kind of click it a bunch, and I move around, and I freak out, and I look at other cards, and then I come back, and it's like, or
Look at
else,
other cards from other sets that are already out, or
no,
look
in
at
the queue, in the
Right.
thing. If I don't have an idea immediately, I'll go elsewhere, and I'll maybe sleep or whatever, and I'll come back.
How often do you have an idea immediately, and how often do you not? I mean,
Pretty often. I'll look at a card and I'll be like, oh, sweet, and I'll move through a couple things, but I might also immediately delete them and come back later. And you make a couple passes. I make a fairly heavy use of the thesaurus because it is often very helpful.
It's a very handy book.
No, it's a handy tool. I mean, you have an idea that you might have. A word might appear in your head. You might look at a concept and you might have an adjective, or you might have an idea okay, this has to have a celestial quality, but celestial is an inappropriate word here. So I will begin with celestial in the thesaurus, and I will wander through it until I have either seen a word that is appropriate or another one has occurred to me.
Right.
I mean, often an online thesaurus is not so much going to produce the word that you need, but will kind of galvanize your thought process to the point where you arrive at it independently on your own.
Yeah,
Right.
I call this searching for sparks.
That's great.
As a, Jimmy and I both obviously work in the movie biz, so yeah, we're in the creative field, and I always call it like, I'm just looking for the spark, and then I'll fan that into the fire. But without the spark, it's really hard to make that fire. So all you do is just run around all the time.
Yeah,
just
you
like,
pick through the ashes.
Is this
for a
hot
while
enough? Is this hot enough? Yeah, exactly. There it is, and then you blow on it a little.
Definitely. And then you take it into the Gatherer or Magic Cards, .info, and you use some database, and you look and see what else is there. For instance, with dragons or something with like an established creature type, those have a naming convention. Dragons, as far as I can tell, they are either blank dragon or blank hellkite, like most of the time, and that is a convention that Wizards.
Yeah, you never see one that doesn't have one of those two.
Yeah, it's pretty, unless it's a legend.
Or
like Dragon Whelp would be the only thing, but it still has dragon.
It still says dragon, and so like, as someone who would like Wizards to accept my content and then pay me for it, I'm going to look and see at what they've, what
the rules they've sort of established without the unsaid rules.
Follow the precedent, because at the end of the day, this is their game, and you are participating in it. And the things that are most in your voice are the ones that are very likely the least in theirs. And so, a lot of my babies died. Like when I was looking at my acceptances and cons, like I was very excited. I was very happy with my performance. I love a lot of the stuff. But I also I mourned some of the content that didn't make it through. And I was like, man, there was some really, I labored on some of those things, but they were me. They were very much me.
Right.
And so,
that's the thing about all this contract work, though, that's creative, is like, you're always going to be in that position where like your favorite stuff doesn't. I call it the aliens. It's like you do this thing. It's like for you, it would be naming a card. For us, it might be writing a scene or whatever it is. But then, and it's perfect in your mind. And it's like you look at it from 20 different directions, and you can't poke a hole in it, and you can find no flaw in it. And then an alien from the planet, like, Alpha Centauri comes down, and they smell the color blue. Like they don't have this, and then they are going to pass judgment on it. It's like you can't judge what another person's going to think about your submission. So it's a mature standpoint that you have.
It's an artistic maturity that is, I think, necessary of anyone taking this seriously. Like you really have to be able to. In writing, one of the rules is you hear show don't tell all the time.
Right.
But one of the you've probably heard. I'm sure you guys have heard this, but kill your babies is all the time, and it's like you have to be ready to let them go. You loved them, but like at the end of the day, the real baby is the final product. And if you
have to love it to make it good, right?
Of course,
right.
So you can't get to this point where like you don't actually pour yourself into it, because then it'll just suck from the get go.
You have to love it as hard as you can while you're nurturing it and while you're creating it, and then you have to immediately let go.
That's the great
cruel
paradox of it all.
It's painful. It's
definitely.
Hard. Yeah.
On that somber note, let's move into some cons of Tarkir. What comes first for you? Like, do you look at the mechanics and decide the flavor, or do you sort of look at cards as a whole and then decide that from there, or do you really focus in on the cards?
Well, I mean, there is a lot of art direction, and we see the whole card itself, and so it's often very clear what they want, and it's up to us to come up with an inventive way to express that.
Are there times when it's not clear what they want, or they maybe don't know?
They might say like, this is open ended, like this all of like this can change, and that's exciting. That's wonderful.
We've heard stories from people at Wizards about flavor text and art changing cards. Have you seen that? Like where
changing mid development? You mean? And we have to go back in and restart?
No, I mean like what you're doing informing what they're doing, sort of tail wag the dog style. Like I've heard like art coming in and them being like, well, this art's awesome and it looks like this, and let's change the card to match the art.
Right.
Like, have you heard or seen anything where flavor text changed?
I haven't witnessed that, or I haven't had that experience. But that sounds wonderful. I'm glad they do that.
Just keep working, man.
Yeah.
It'll happen someday.
Definitely.
So
I believe.
So for the cons of Tarkir, obviously there are 5 clans. Now, did you...
let's talk about really quickly, because this is a big point about this set, is the names of
the clans.
The clans. And there's a lot of debate right now, online and otherwise, about people are like, oh, I don't know if I'm ever going to get used to saying this. And it's by the way, you'll get used to it.
You'll definitely get used to it.
I mean, we all say Grixis, don't we? Like, come
Grixis
on.
is awesome. And,
but
and so
nobody said Grixis 10 years ago or whatever. Like,
exactly.
Don't worry, you will say it. But that like there had to be a lot of weight because I'm assuming Wizards knew like this is going to be what these 3 color combinations are called till the end of time. So
yes.
So what was that process like specifically for the clan names? Were you involved in that?
I was not at all. No, that was set in stone before we even.
They had already decided on that internally.
Wizards does a great deal of world building before before we're privy to anything.
Right.
We show up to a pretty complete world.
And you guys are kind of like the sprinkle of magic on top.
Absolutely.
Not to be redundant.
And so when we're injecting new characters or embellishing on one that exists, those are liberties. Those are risky. It's actually probably safer if you're trying to get more acceptances to just stick to kind of a more direct expression of something.
Right.
But what's the fun in that?
Yeah, I agree.
I mean, you want to be inventive. You want to be imaginative.
You didn't get creative to be safe.
Yeah, we're not technicians here. We're world builders too.
So with all these clans, did you, with your submission process and what you take and what you try to do, did you start with each color? Did you start with each clan? Was there any process?
I just went right down the list alphabetically. I did not use any of the sorting tools that are available to us to group by color or rarity. I tried to once, and it immediately threw me off, and I just undid it and went back to what it was because I liked being shaken out of my comfort zone. I would move from one card to the next and it'd be in a completely different color, completely different rarity. I enjoyed that. I needed to be surprised. I got stale if I tried to do it the other way.
No, you said you were creating some characters that you would use their voice continuously.
Right.
You how deep into that do you go? Do you start writing backstories for those characters? Do you create how much of in your mind? I mean, obviously this is not necessarily.
I did no background writing on myself, but their faces and their voices and their day-to-day, their habits, that starts to kind of
you paint
organically, arise in your own heart. Like the way any character that, that you're commanding in a fictional context like that, they start to take a little form.
Can you tell us your favorite clan from Karns of Tarkir?
I'm torn between the Sultai and the Jeskai.
Nice.
I mean,
is that because they rhyme?
No.
I'm all about Jeskai. I like Jeskai a lot.
Well, the flavor for both is just so rich and wonderful. I love Bug as a color triplet, and so I was really just blown away by the way they married all of those color identities into one. It's something so cohesive, and I can't really embellish upon it. I can just point you to the art that's been spoiled of the Khan Sidisi. And the other one of a bunch of dudes posing.
I love that.
This just proves my point also that anyone from early Magic, because you notice he picked the 2 clans with blue in it. Anybody from early Magic, blue.
They know blue. It's all about blue.
What's up?
Blue just kicked too much ass early on.
You can't stray too far. But the Sultai are their adjective, I believe, is ruthlessness. That was the spoiled one. They
ruthlessness and manipulation is what they're about.
They are so wonderfully villainous in that sense. It's just
that's my favorite.
They're just delightful.
I mean, right now until we go to the pre-release, and I'm pretty sure that I'm going to be Mardu every time I can.
They're going to be that'll be fun. But but the Jeskai, are on the other side of that, much more heroic and
cunning and tricks.
It's the cunning and the tricks. It's not so much a rogue thing as it is a wisdom.
I see. So using your knowledge to win the battle.
Well, they're the eye of the dragon, and so it's about sight and insight, and it's there. As we can see, it's very martial arts themed. It's this kung fu kind of mythical China vibe to it, and so it has a very contemplative nature to it. And for me, that was great because I studied abroad in India and Nepal studying Buddhist philosophy of mind.
Oh, you got Eastern philosophy.
Perfect.
So I was
Jeskai is right up your alley. Then.
Right. So I mean, I saw the Tibetan flavor. I saw the architecture and the clothing in the Jeskai, and I just went ape. It was amazing. I went to the library and I pulled out a bunch of texts on Tibetan mythology, and I started getting into a bunch of old legends just to see how the stories were being told, how those fables were structured, and the tone of them, and are they playful like Native American stuff? Are they really brutal and metal like Norse myth? Like what is their character? And it was just so mystical and super transcendent all the time, like people transforming into various other things.
Right.
I mean, interestingly, without getting specific, did you find that passion for those specific clan translated into more of your submissions being accepted for them than maybe others, or?
Not necessarily. No. No. I'm pretty scattered across the set. I had a lot of.
I think that speaks to you as a writer in that case, because it just means you are consistent across a bigger part.
Yeah. I mean, I had affection for
There's this misconception, I think, in creativity that somehow like passion always translates to the work in the end, and it doesn't. Like a lot of times, elbow grease actually wins, and beats passion in the end. Like that. Let that be a lesson to everybody out there.
Yeah, you might be totally uninspired by something on its face, but then when you actually start to do it,
when you grind it out,
you grind it out, and something pretty solid comes out. And
I think there's this idea though, young like emerging artists, where it's like that because that stuff's way harder to do, and like your brain wants to tell you like, and it won't be good in the end.
Right.
But that's not true. Like, sometimes the hardest stuff is the best stuff when it's over.
Absolutely.
Going back to cons, we know the morph mechanic is returning.
Yes.
Is there and
morph is back.
Yeah, and being a longtime Magic player, like, were you excited to see that back? Were you?
I actually did not play with morph, or remember doing so when I was younger. I think morph had its dominant presence when I had departed from Magic for a while, and it was not really active when I came back in. This is actually going to be one of my first times playing with morph in that context, but flavor-wise, it's very clear what morph is doing, and it's extremely fun. You want to get in there and you want to have the you want to really have all the dynamics that are in play with morph mechanically. You want them to be present in the language, so you want there to be a sense of sudden emergence. Like you want there to be like dynamism and change. And or if not in the actual text itself, it should be heavily implied that like, something is going to emerge here and it's going to have an effect. It's going to have a dramatic effect.
It's morphing into existence.
Yeah, right. And so there's this veiled kind of ambient quality to it in its morph state, and then there's just this like violent ambush quality as it emerges. And that is inherent drama right there. That's just like a soft pitch over home plate.
Right, right, yeah.
Like, that is awesome. It's tons of fun to work with.
You spoke about this with one of your favorite cards, Withinger Unbound, is in cards that instead of having a split face or two cards on the same card, it is more, you'd rather prefer the card that flips over because it has that inherent drama.
Well, not necessarily. I mean, I don't prefer it per se, but I appreciate what it's doing.
Right,
in terms of uniting, in terms of enacting the flavor mechanically.
Right.
The article you're referring to was an article I published on GatheringMagic.com. I called it the top 15 most flavorful cards, which was a terrible misplay on my part because it was truly
more lessons to be learned, guys.
Yeah, no, absolutely, because it was less so the most flavorful cards. It was more of 15 cards that very clearly demonstrated a tight correlation between flavor
and mechanics.
Yeah. Right. Flavor that expresses what mechanics are doing, and mechanics that carry out what flavor describes. And so I try to pick cards that really there's really like decreasing separation between those two processes as you get down to number one. And Withingar was my number one because I feel like Withingar does everything. Like Withingar, when you there's so much drama in that. You take it out of its sleeve and you turn it over, and the card frame is different now. It's gained a color.
It's gained a creature.
It's gained a type. It's suddenly it's like legendary now. I think was the artifact legendary to begin with.
It may be.
It might be. Yeah.
If you guys don't know,
all I know is Jimmy smacked me in the face with it the other day. Like, metaphorically.
We'll read the card. It is Elbrus the Binding Blade is what it starts at. It's a 7-drop legendary artifact equipment.
Right.
And all it does to equip for one is gets +1/+0, and you're like, wait, hold on a second.
Something's going on here.
Yeah, and it's got great flavor text on the front.
Well, the equip cost, too, is important. It's only one.
One to equip, yeah.
It costs 7 to put out.
That's
exactly
narratively meaningful.
Yes, very much so. And then when equipped creature deals combat damage to a player, unattach Elbrus the Binding Blade and transform it. So flip it over. And the text on the front is, those who grasp its hilt soon hear the demon's call. And there is definitely a demon on the back. It's called Withingar Unbound. It's a 13/13 legendary creature demon that's flying, intimidate, trample. And anytime a player loses the game, you put 13 more +1/+1 counters on him.
Right. So this artifact costs 7 to begin with because it's difficult to obtain. Right. It's it is truly a legendary dagger. You had to go through great lengths to acquire it. But once you have it, it's very easy to use because it
wants to be used.
Wants to be transformed. The demon inside of it is like the way the ring entices the ring bearers to do things. It's like it wants you to do it. And so when you draw blood with it, it abandons you immediately, and it flips over, and it now becomes this outrageous monster, and it's fantastic.
Fortunately, you're still in control of it.
Right.
I always thought it should kill the creature that it was equipped to.
I think so. That would have been icing on the cake. I think that would have been great. Yeah.
And not just kill, it would say murder.
It's it's a great EDH card. Well, it did murder me, so that was...
it's quite powerful.
That's a wonderful card.
I want to talk about a card now that we're on the subject. King Makar.
The gold
yeah,
cursed.
the Midas analog.
Yeah, let's talk about King Makar. Why is it a May ability on that card? I mean, you have to be up in arms about that as a flavor guy, right?
Can we go over the rules once?
Yes.
The text.
Let
exactly?
me pull up King Makar, the gold curse. And if anyone doesn't know the story of Midas, and
do
King
you have
Midas,
a choice of?
You have a choice
of whether the.
You should not have a choice.
No, you should not have a choice. That's the point of the King Midas's like conflict.
They've caught a lot of flack for
Yeah.
this, but you're an official flavor guy, and
yeah,
So-
that seems that hadn't occurred to me actually. I looked at that card and I was happy that they had done that. I was happy to see Midas being brought into the fold. Way like Fleece.
it's an awesome card.
It's great.
It's so flavorful,
Yeah.
and yet they messed it up with the.
just one. Sometimes all it takes is the letters MAY, and now change the card entirely. But so King Makar is a 2/2 black. He's the gold cursed. If you guys don't know about King Midas and the Midas touch, very famous story. You should look it up. He says, inspired whenever King Makar, the gold curse, becomes untapped, you may exile target creature. If you do, you can put a colorless artifact token creature named named gold on the battlefield, and you can sacrifice it to add 1 mana of any card.
So basically, he's like turning everything into gold, right?
Yeah.
Right.
Anything he
Yeah.
touches.
But the curse of Midas was that he had to do it. Right?
If he touched anything, it
to.
became gold, and there's the sorrow there. He can't love. He can't
it's
eat.
melancholy.
You know,
Yeah,
it's brutal. And
he
so
may
It's
never hold
untenable.
anyone.
Like you
Yeah.
can't survive if you have that power. It sounds great at first, and then it's
Right.
like, oh, that's gonna.
Yeah,
be the
it's
end
going
of
to
it.
ruin my life.
If he had been a mandatory trigger, that would have eventually there'd have been no creatures in the battlefield presumably,
Has to
and he
turn
could have done
himself.
himself into
Yeah.
gold.
Yeah, he
and
had
that
to
is
have
so
turned
beautiful.
That is.
Right?
That would have
Yeah.
been great. Yeah.
Our friend Will was saying this is how you achieve true sadness and true like actual loss is when it's not when you've done something wrong. It's knowing it's too late
Right.
after you've done something wrong. It's you're past the point.
I'm very happy to see Magic doing this, of really like incorporating real world mythos into the game itself and running with it. And in Khans of Tarkir, I mean, there are various historical regions that each of the clans reference, and that's visible.
Right.
And it's visible in the art. They have the trappings and just like the.
There's definitely like Mongolians. There's definitely like
Those are really exciting as a writer to work with because you get to do a great deal of historical reading, and it's exciting. 'Cause it's
absolutely.
fun reading. It's like it's ritual and violence and.
Yes, definitely.
And drama.
Yeah, and
It's
the
great.
colors do definitely like to match up with that as well.
One other thing to touch on is that it's a time travel set.
I don't know anything about that.
So they didn't actually.
No, I have.
That was my
I've-
question.
I'm as excited as you guys are to learn about
Excellent.
how that is going to take place and how that's going to play out. I saw the set of Khans of Tarkir. I saw the. I was given sufficient information to write about it and no more. It was a completely need-to-know basis. I have no idea what the block is doing. I remember hearing very early on with the rest of the Magic community on Reddit and such that there was going to be an unconventional structure to the block. And I was like, really? In what way?
It's
I have no idea.
It's interesting because you would think that with the time travel, like they would want cohesion between
Or maybe that's
the references,
the point.
right?
Who knows?
Yeah, because.
I mean, I can fully speculate with you guys. Like, I love the idea of bringing. We know that the dragons are extinct on Tarkir at present day, and I love the idea of returning to a past in which they are not. That sounds exciting.
Or turning to a future where they are as
Right?
well.
Yeah,
You never know.
an
It could
alternate
go-
future. Maybe we go back to the past.
Well, I
for
think
the
we go.
middle
Yeah,
set.
that's
and
what
then
I
we
think.
end up
Go
with
back to the past, and then
a sort of
there's
parallel timeline in the third
Yeah.
set, as to
exactly.
mimic.
They're gonna retcon it.
Yeah.
They're gonna retcon that world,
Their
and then
own-
there'll be dragons in the future.
I can't wait.
Sounds great. Yeah, I
Yeah.
would love to see them do it. It sounds like a.
I'm also very
like a fun
excited
trick.
because usually time travel cards are take an extra turn, and it's like that's
Right.
kind of flavorful. You just pay a lot of mana and you like swirl around this mystical ball, and look,
Yeah.
you get another turn. But I'm really excited for time travel in this case because I think it's gonna do some really fun stuff. I hope.
I would think it would open up a lot of doors for flavor. Like, let's say, for instance, you've got all these characters and they speak in a certain voice, but then somebody goes back in time and changes the time-space continuum, and now all of a sudden they're different characters than they were in your set.
So let's, because we do have a couple of cards spoiled to us in cons, we can definitely talk about them, and I'd love to hear your opinion on the flavor of them.
Yeah,
and
let's talk about it.
especially this first one is Zergo Helm Smasher.
Zergo Helm Smasher.
And one thing I noticed on here that I didn't even think about is that there's no room for flavor text on this guy. He is all mechanics.
No, he's doing quite a bit.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So when it comes to something like that, I mean that must be fun as well. Now you only get to do the name for this character. And did you find that you have to sometimes give a little more to the name? Because
You have to
don't
give a lot more to the name. If you
Yeah.
only have the name to convey what's happening in it, you have to be so careful. Every one of those letters, if there's a hyphen or not, it's all very, very clear. You have to be super precise. It's actually a lot more pressure
Yeah,
to
yeah,
successfully
definitely.
execute.
You got to do more with less.
Yes, you have to do a lot more with less. Yeah.
Let's read this card though. He is Mardu. He's 2 red, white, black, 7/2 with haste. He attacks each combat fable. He's indestructible as long as it's your turn, and whenever a creature dealt by him dies, put a +1/+1 counter on him.
Yeah, he's just a beater.
He's a beater. He is a helm smasher.
Yeah, dude is swinging in.
Somebody named it good. I don't know if it was you.
I wasn't me. I did not name that. We know that the Mardu are speed of the dragon.
Yeah.
And I think
definitely
the kind of the forces at their back and visible in the imagery, and then the colors themselves and our familiarity with what those colors typically do, especially in I guess not necessarily in conjunction because we so rarely see that, but it's the Mardu horde.
You can tell by the text on it.
I think we have an idea of what they're going to do, especially given what their leader does, and so. That's very exciting. That was very, very exciting to write about because it's just ferocity. And it was just testosterone the whole time. So when I was doing Mardu cards, I was just channeling my inner jock, and it was just straight like beer can crushing, like just axe in the sand kind of writing, and that was great. Like there's a place for that because there was also like each of the other clans are so different. Like the Jeskai would never behave in that way, and so when I have something more poeticized than the Temple Div, I take it over there.
Interesting.
Because you find you have to be in like different moods to write the stuff for the different clans. Like it seems like you got to put on a different hat each time.
Yeah, but I like to jump around. I like to wear all the hats at once and just kind of throw them on the floor and pick them up, and it's great.
Right. Now, how many cues do you take from the legendary leader of each clan before deciding to go into the flavor, or is it just sort of I know what these colors are about? Let's do it based on that.
I took a lot of cues from who those characters were as people and as with their backstories. And so we know that Zergo, as they mentioned in the Comic-Con panel, we know that Zergo and Sarkin have
beef,
some antipathy. Yeah, and
so they got beef.
Yeah, they got some beef.
Do they? I mean, I'm assuming Craven can do whatever they want, but did you see any instances where they you submitted something for one card, but they slid it over to another card?
Oh, that's a good question. I might be surprised when I see it. But when I looked over my acceptances, I could pretty clearly remember what card they matched up to. But I've heard that happens.
Oh.
I've heard that's a thing.
I mean, obviously, it would.
They can do whatever they want.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, and they might change it entirely. It might not even be yours anymore, but they still might pay you for it because it's what generated their response to it.
Oh, interesting. Yeah.
I mean, I've had I looked at a lot of them and be like, oh, this is edited. I remember what it was. It's this now. They make a.
But they still credited you with acceptance for that.
Correct,
That's great.
Correct. Yeah.
That's great. Is this Giza from?
Giza is also from. No, those are both the two cards.
You guys pronounce it Giza?
Giza?
I'm just saying like Jissa. I don't know.
Jissa.
That sounds like
I've heard
Jizza. So I don't know about that. That's kind of a little close to profanity.
Well, Jizza, I guess Gisela.
Gisela. Yeah.
I guess the only two. Yeah.
Giza.
Jizza just sounds bad.
That sounds really bad.
Sounds like someone that's part of the Wu-Tang Clan. I think it is.
Ghoul caller Jizza.
That I'm waiting for.
Old dirty Jizza.
Yeah, old dirty Jizza. We need to make that alter happen immediately.
It's the nerdiest joke of all time.
Do you want to talk about these cards that are spoiled, or would you rather stray away
they're
from
pretty
them?
cool. I mean,
okay, cool.
It's exciting to see her printed as a legend because we got a lot of flavor text from her and her brother Geralf in the Innistrad block, and we got I know they got covered a little bit in the Uncharted Realms column,
right?
And there was definitely there was narrative support for them as a presence.
Yeah,
and I remember the community at large. I heard voices sort of lamenting the fact that they didn't arrive, they didn't appear, and it's nice to see her arrive. I mean, we might get Geralf eventually, but I don't really feel the pressure. Like we've kind of moved beyond Innistrad now. I don't know that we'll go back there, but she's a great card. She's pretty cool. I mean,
I love the art and just the mechanic, and she's just so carefree about her use of the undead.
Definitely. I mean, I don't know if I'd run her as a general. I think I might run her in Grimgrin maybe.
Oh yes, Grimgrin.
Definitely. That seems helpful.
Yeah, token generator.
Yeah, for sure. Especially if you're sacking Gravecrawler.
With
definitely. Rooftop Storm out with that classic combo. I mean, that just seems fun.
Yeah.
Infinite tokens.
Okay, so before we move on to Commander Spotlight on your deck, James, I do want to ask you one more question. How many boxes of Khans of Tarkir are you personally going to buy
to get all your cards?
I might just target all the singles because I mean,
it's true. I think that's economically.
Do you know the
rarity
of the cards that were accepted?
Yes,
so you might have some expensive ones in there.
You never know. What if? Yeah, man, could you imagine?
I mean, the ones that you actually get. I mean, I don't know if you guys know this or if anyone knows this, but one of the wonderful perks about being on the creative text team is that you receive a courtesy foil copy of every card to which you have contributed.
Oh,
so
my
you
goodness.
I probably should have revealed this earlier.
Oh, my
Yes.
goodness.
Oh, my
This is
goodness.
a delightful perk.
I would only
So
submit for
stoked,
the
yeah.
mythic rares, and that's it.
Well, you see that actually when
Do you
when
actually work harder on the mythic rares then?
You can't
like
help
you
it. They're
slave
great.
over?
Yeah, you can't help
but
it.
you also have to recognize that your bread and butter, like your payouts and like
the
you know,
commons,
and
yeah.
it's gonna
Yeah,
be the
what are you
commons.
gonna-
Like,
yeah,
and that's
absolutely.
like, and what are people gonna play with most often, like in draft and limited?
Oh,
Like,
yeah,
those are gonna be
yeah.
the commons. Like
But the card that's going to live on
In
yeah,
infamy.
the
eternally,
legend. Yeah,
the
yeah.
possibility of a card that like is played in Legacy,
Yeah.
you know, still 20 years from now. That's
Absolutely.
probably a rare or a mythic rare. You
Absolutely.
know, most likely. So,
Probably, yes.
If you want to be immortalized.
Yeah, and who doesn't?
Yeah.
you know.
Right.
And
Yeah,
so
absolutely.
So I mean, I have
So you get a foil copy of each one?
foil
That's pretty
copy of
sweet.
everything. It's
Pretty
amazing.
sweet.
I have a couple
Pretty sweet.
foils that I'm very excited to receive.
Ah,
pretty
excellent.
But
Wow.
but other than that,
Are
though,
there
I
any
am
that are
probably
going to go
like,
directly into your commander decks?
Yeah, there are a few.
Nice.
There are a few. I'm
Nice.
in a constant rotation of
Nice.
decks. So if
And
they're
I
not
like
getting
how-
one of
And
the
then
ones
when
I
you
have now,
play it on somebody, you can be like, yeah, and
I wrote that, bro.
Yeah,
Yeah, I wrote that.
I named that card.
Yeah. So the next time you can say that you died to so and so.
Yeah.
You died to my
I actually
creation.
I have more anticipation for other players producing cards that I named. Right? And
Oh,
I'm like,
yes.
I see you like that card. What do you think of that name?
Give me your
awesome.
honest opinion.
Yeah, what do you think, really?
Awesome. So today we're gonna have a commander spotlight on the deck that you brought in, and it's actually a deck that I've thought about making, or just
We chatted about
exploring,
it,
walking into it and
yeah.
see what
I think
happened.
every Johnny in the world was extremely excited to see Kruphix, God of Horizons,
Yeah.
spoiled.
Yeah, definitely.
So yeah, our commander spotlight is Kruphix, God of Horizons. Do you want to read them for us? Real quick?
He is a 4/7 indestructible for 3, a green and a blue. Legendary enchantment creature, subtype god. As long as your devotion to green and blue is less than 7, Kruphix isn't a creature.
Okay.
First ability is you have no maximum hand size, so he's got Reliquary Tower tacked on, and his final ability is a bit like what's his face, Omnath.
Yeah.
If unused mana would empty from your mana pool, that mana becomes colorless instead. And I think I applaud them for the economy of that wording.
Yeah.
I think
Yeah,
that's
definitely.
Basically,
very-
that means
very
that
tight.
any mana you have left that you haven't spent at the end of your turn, it turns into colorless, and then you keep it.
right. It just
Sorry,
hangs
at
out.
the end of any turn.
of any turn. Or,
Yeah. So you can. It's equity that you can bring to your next turn.
Yeah.
Right. So
Let's
it allows
see.
you to accumulate a comical store of mana, which you can then apply to obscene uses as a.
Yeah. So the first things this makes me think of, obviously you've got your deck built already, but let me just see if I can nail it.
Go for it. Yeah.
I mean, first of all, gods are great commanders because there's not a lot of great
Ways to get
answers
rid
to
of
them.
them.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly.
Right.
And
You
in
want
fact,
him to stay in
Yeah, you don't
enchantment.
want him to be a god.
You spend a lot of
or a
time
creature.
keeping that devotion low.
Yeah, because you don't want the creature, you want the ability, and it's really hard to exile. It's a lot harder to exile an enchantment than it is a
Yeah.
creature.
Right.
So that's the first big upside.
It happened. There's enough spot removal that targets permanence in general.
Yeah.
It'll
Well,
get
there
I'm
chaos.
sure
It'll
it can
get-
happen. It's just harder.
Yeah,
Yeah,
it's
yeah,
definitely
definitely.
it's much harder. It's wonderful.
A lot of
yeah.
people don't really include in their toolbox in decks specifically god removal. You know,
Right,
I find
right.
Deicide is not like a commonly run card.
No.
You know.
I don't imagine I would.
You
run
need
the other side,
exile
yeah.
target permanent because nobody's really running exile target enchantment, and that's
Right.
the only other thing that would do it. So
Right.
yeah, you need an exile target permanent
For sure.
basically.
Or tuck it. That's it. It's
Or tuck it.
devastating.
Yeah.
Devastating loss. To
But
lose-
it has to
lose
be
Kruphix, yeah.
tuck permanent or hinder.
Right.
It's got to be oblation. It's got to be
Yeah.
chaos. Ward.
Fortunately, you are in a deck that runs a color that's called blue, and has a spell called Counterspell.
That was the thing. Is I was totally enchanted by Omnath, and like I mean enchanted. I loved Omnath as
you can be
as
enchanted by Omnath.
Yeah,
That's
the
quite
Kruphix
right.
is basically an enchanted version of Omnath.
He is,
Yeah.
he is, and I was, as a Johnny, and as someone who's interested in running with decks that are, allow me to do shenanigans.
Yeah.
I was looking at
Well,
Omnath.
EDH
and like,
is about
it
shenanigans.
is,
It's all
that's,
about
that's the heart and
shenanigans.
soul of the format, of course. And so I'm looking at Omnath, and I'm like, I want to build you, but you are inadequate. You don't have enough. I don't want to play a mono green deck. If I did, I'd
Yeah.
probably
probably
really
just play
hard to have
Azusa,
enough tools
or
around
Yeva.
it. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I would opt elsewhere. But when they spoiled Kruphix, I've always said Kruphix. I think the world says Kruphix. I might be in the wrong here, but
Who knows?
So when they
I
spoiled,
don't know if we're right, but I'm pretty sure a lot of people say Kruphix.
They
Yeah,
do,
I hear
yeah.
We could be
Kruphix.
They
wrong.
absolutely, and they
Often
say Garrick.
Of course,
I've
I
said
say
Garuk
Giza.
like an absolute pedestrian, which is garbage.
Well,
I should be
Mero
shot.
recently said it is Garrick.
It is confirmed Garrick.
Confirmed Garrick.
I have to amend.
But it's okay. You can still have your animated GIFs and GIFs, guys. It's all right. It's up to you. However
I'll
you
swim with
want
the
to pronounce
current.
it.
It's Garrick and Kruphix. It's fine. But but I saw what he did, and I saw that he had blue, and I was like, this is possible now. This
Right.
is there. And in order to keep him under the devotion limit, you run all the counterspells. You run the grip of EDH playable counterspells.
Well, it feels like there's basically going to be three aspects, right? It's going to be stuff that makes a ton of mana,
right,
or repeatably use your mana,
right.
Stuff that uses that mana to kill people,
correct,
and stuff that stops anything else,
right,
yeah,
right.
Yeah,
it's a wonderful control.
Yeah, and if you want to play control, I mean, you just hang back, and people might think you're dirtling. You're just making up mana, but you just.
I mean, they have to know when they see your commander. Like, we can't let him get a ton of mana because he's going to have some way to use it. Like, who puts that commander as their commander and then is like, I have 150 mana, but I have nothing to do.
don't no threat.
Just for fun, guys. I just wanted to see if I could get there.
As long as you can keep the grip. Keep the draw going. If you have the resources in your hand, which is pretty standard, if you have the cards, and the general gives you the mana, and so you're gonna be in a position to just cast Forbid over and over again. Forbid is probably my favorite counterspell in the deck. It's got buyback for the cost of discarding 2 cards, and after a certain point, you've stroke of geniused yourself for 60, or you stuck a Ristic Study really early, and you've just been building up stuff. So you just counter everything, and it just goes forever.
And I think one thing that you may not immediately realize about Kruphix, which is why he's so great, is that I assume the basic play is leave all your mana up with all your counters, be able to cast cards at flash speed, and let the whole turn go around. And when it finally gets back to you, you can just add that mana to your mana pool forever until you use it, and it untaps and it's your turn again.
Well, it's interesting. Like, do you find that, like, what are you doing? You're waiting till end step, and then, okay, I'm going to tap all my mana.
And then you tap. Yeah, you leave your lands open, prioritizing colored, because again, Kruphix will turn off the color, make them colors, and so you can't cast counterspells with those. So you want to keep your islands and your blue sources pretty clean. But you're not just waiting until the end step of the person to your right. You're waiting for everybody's end step, and you're using Seedborn Muse and Prophet of Kruphix together, stacking the triggers to get as much mana as possible all the time.
Absolutely.
Right. So if you have Prophet of Kruphix and Seedborn Muse out, what happens is Prophet untaps all your lands. You tap them real quick, then Seedborn untaps all your lands.
Not even real quick.
Seedborn untaps permanents too.
Right.
Yeah.
So you're getting your mana rocks in play. And
and Prophet untaps creatures. So
right.
Yeah, I was surprised when I looked at your list. There's no there's no real creature producing.
It's a build that I've seen, and it's a way you can go. It does produce creatures on some of the win cons, like Hydra Broodmaster.
No, I meant mana producing creatures. Yeah.
Oh no, I'm used to metas in which board games or in which board wipes rule. And I'm used to very frequent damnations and Day of Judgments, and so I like to play builds that sort of allow those waves to wash over me, without wasting all of my gear.
I guess we should actually ask you very quickly about that. What is your meta in your play group, and what do you see sort of happen, just so that we can also have a little more information walking into this deck build?
Like, how many people, first of all, are in your
we're playing like 5 to 9 person games, and then
wait, you play a game with 9 people at once?
It's untenable. I hate doing it. It's boring.
Why don't you? Yeah, you got to split that into 4 and 5.
That's what we're sort of getting to the point now. But
crazy, dude.
We have
6 is too big.
It's like one of those.
6 is the worst number because 3 sucks and 6 sucks.
Yeah. You guys are like in a clown car.
It's goofy.
Of magic over
it's
there.
really dumb. Everyone takes so long, and you just go make a meal between your turns.
You just play a 3-headed giant.
Yeah.
3v3.
But
my point is that we have a lot of dudes in my living room.
Okay. Well, no wonder there's so many board wipes. So if you're playing with 9 people,
you want to wipe the
everyone's
board.
like somebody has a board wipe on every turn.
Yeah, honestly, it's brutal. And so
is your game fast? Like, what turn does it usually end on? Would you say?
Late. They're pretty long. They go for a while because people are. They're
just blowing the world up all the time?
They're blowing up the world. They're casting chaos. What's the world? Not Worldfire. The chaos card, like just the silly red.
Oh gosh,
Warp World. They're casting Warp World. We have really people are out to do shenanigans, but people are also out to win. And Kruphix, I feel like is. Is
there anyone out just to make infinite creatures and swing?
It happens. Yeah, we have.
Well, you kind of are.
Yeah,
it's not infinite creatures, but
they're not infinite. I make a point of counting exactly how many there are because I want that number to ring out. It's dramatic.
Not just I make
time.
some arbitrary number. It's like, no,
9 people is a lot of people.
That's too many. It isn't always that big. We actually play on Sunday mornings at 10 a.m. And if your play group is looking for a good time to find a time when everyone's there, I suggest you try it. Just give it a shot one time. Because be honest with yourself, what are you doing Sunday morning time? If you're not in church, you're in bed. And it's
making breakfast.
We're making breakfast,
but you have no plans otherwise.
And you have no plans otherwise. You might get together later with your friends in the afternoon and stuff. But by then it's kind of Sunday night. You got to get ready for the week. Start your Sunday off with wake up and have your friends show up, and maybe you're the host, so maybe make a big pot of oatmeal for them and like brew coffee, and everyone shows up and everyone's so excited to start their day with this game we love, and it's great.
Yeah.
And
I would do Sunday morning drafts. I think I could make that part.
Yeah.
Cup
Someone's
of
got a
coffee
box
and
of
draft.
Innistrad. Yeah.
I'll do draft anytime.
I just recently got a box of Modern Masters, just waiting to get drafted.
That's exciting.
We just drafted it
We did
last
just
week.
draft it. We are spoiled.
What'd you guys pull? Anything cool?
I did pull a foil Elspeth. I
That's
have the
glorious.
touch.
He's got the touch. I never pull anything. I pulled the best deck.
You do have the best. You do have some of the most
What'd
valuable.
you play? What was your build?
Rebels.
Yeah.
Fun, yeah.
Dude,
Yeah.
all Rebels all day. You were tutoring for Rebels like every turn for 2. Oh my god.
I had a Rebels deck and it had about 14 Rebels in it,
That's
and
great.
6 Rebel Searchers. It was broken.
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
pretty
But,
wild.
Okay, let's talk about let's get back to your deck here and talk about a few more of the cards. I see
Sure,
Doubling Cube.
Doubling
here.
Cube is the heart and soul of the
It
deck.
seems like
Yeah.
It is truly the heart and soul of the deck, and I bought that foil randomly because I thought the card was exciting way before, like a year before Kruphix was spoiled, and it's exciting. I'm sure that price has gone up way more than I paid for it.
especially with Kruphix.
Yeah, well, exactly.
Yeah,
because of Kruphix.
exactly.
Let me read it really quick. It's 2 mana for an artifact. It says pay 3 and tap it. Double the amount of each type of mana in your mana pool.
Right.
So I'm assuming this is usually doubling your colorless.
I mean, it often hits
Yeah.
colorless, but if you do it on your turn and there's and you've just tapped all your lands into it, at that point you essentially have an arbitrary amount of colored mana to play with. You don't really, but like
explode
no.
the game.
Oh, that's
with
true,
fresh
because you have
mana.
all the colorless saved from your previous turns.
Right. Yeah.
And so you just use 3 of those, and
Correct.
you just double your mana, basically,
Right,
your
and then
colored
you-
mana.
yeah,
and
and
then
then you
that's all
use-
going to spill into.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, Voltaic Key, and then you pop it open, double
Kira's
again.
Follower.
Kira's Follower, pop it again.
Yeah, a lot of ways to untap it.
Yeah. Tezzeret
and
the
to
Seeker,
use it a
pop
bunch.
them again. And
So you
Right,
can
right.
literally, like, in one turn, if you that's like 2
Oh,
to the
it's-
4th power.
Yeah, it's
you're-
exponential, and that's the
Yeah.
point. Is when you have a word like double,
You
we have
need a
verb like
calculator
that.
when you play this
Yeah.
deck.
At a certain, I've been sort of kind of enforcing the arithmetic on myself. But after a certain number of digits, you kind of get over.
Right.
You're just like, I'm above a million.
Yeah, I'm
Yeah.
over. Yeah, my record for mana production in this deck is 15 million.
Wow.
I play Vidalcan Orrery, pass turn. In his end step, I flash in a Gelatinous Genesis with 15 million mana, and it's like it was like 3,500 million.
Right. A lot.
Of that exact, like,
a lot of gelatinous
with that exact
Genesis.
You're dead.
power and toughness.
It just said you're dead.
It was
Yeah.
just silly. It's just goofy. Or like alternatively, you can. There are draw spells in the deck, things like Stroke of Genius and Blue Sun Zenith.
Right. Let's talk
Brain
about
Geyser.
your finishers, actually. 'cause
Yeah,
you
'cause-
have several options here
Right,
how
right.
to win, essentially. One of them is mill. So
Yes.
you've got cards like Stroke of Genius in there, Blue Sun Zenith. These are all essentially make someone draw their
Yeah.
Well,
deck
I
out.
like something like Stroke of Genius because it's dual purpose, right? It's
Right.
like if I have it and I'm at a modest amount of mana for this deck would be like what 30ish.
Yeah, that's really modest. That's
yeah.
very low.
So
Yeah.
then I can fire it off to go find all the pieces I need to really get into
I would
the
even
15
wait.
million
Yeah.
range.
30 seems
You
low.
wouldn't
If
draw
I'm-
30?
If I'm digging for pieces, I will draw 30 if it's dire. If I'm doing it in response.
If dire.
If
If it's dire, I'm looking
30
for,
cards into
Yeah,
my hand. That
I'm-
sounds about
seriously,
right.
I'd like to hold on. I'd like to hold out for 50. I'd like to maybe
Right,
maybe
right.
60, depending on what my library is like.
You don't find that if you say I cast this and draw 50 cards that the whole table doesn't turn to kill you because that's what
are
would
they
happen
gonna-
in our game.
What are they
Right,
going to do?
absolutely.
I now have 50 counterspells. Like I have so like
true.
I have a big hand. I feel great drawing 50 cards. I mean, of course I would, but like,
I mean, I think a lot of us would feel great if we
But
could
I mean,
get
you have to spend 50
cards.
mana to do it, and presumably,
But
if they let you get to 300 mana,
I would not have done that if I didn't have the colorless then to protect myself after the effect. Like I'm gonna like you spend as much colorless as you can, prioritizing and really preserving those colored mana sources for moments like that, for defending those plays. And so you're digging. First of all, you're probably going to hit Pact of Negation if you don't have it already. So that's fine. That doesn't help. That doesn't cost anything. But then you're going to get into a lot of defensive plays like Evacuation or Ether Spouts or something. You want to keep. You don't have access to true board wipes, but you can definitely keep aggression at bay.
Right.
The goal is to have it not matter how angry the table is at you. You just have a vulgar display of power in which it doesn't like people let them try.
Right.
Let them try.
I like that vulgar display of power.
I actually can't take credit for it. That was one of my housemates said that to me after a glorious Kruphix win. Where
I see. Let's talk about some of your counters, actually. I thought Trickbind was a really good addition to this deck, and actually for a lot of EDH, because I'll read the text on it. It's 1 in the blue for an instant that has split second. So as long as it's on the stack, it's the last thing on there. You can't essentially counter that. It says counter target activated or triggered ability. If a permanent's ability is countered this way, activated abilities of that permanent can't be played this turn.
Right. I think this card should see a lot more EDH play. I think it's a wonderful counterspell, especially for generals that have an activated ability.
That I'm thinking specifically of Prosh. Someone that has a sack outlet built into them, and I think it's great because it says, like there's a card called that was reprinted in Conspiracy that is just Stifle. You just do it once. And it's like, well, that's great, but what if they just do it again?
And in EDH, the difference between 1 and 2 mana is less pronounced than other formats.
Absolutely. So
it's basically not even there.
Yeah, so that's why I like
Especially
Trick
in
Bind.
Kruphix.
Yeah, because you have the ability to actually stop, at least buy yourself that much extra time to do something if it is a general that could go infinite, in that turn if you don't stop it.
Let's talk about...
Sponsor.
You're saying how you only need 30 mana with this.
I love the math that's happening at this table.
It is actually very
with
easy.
Kruphix, it's very easy.
Even if you're super modest and let's say the worst happened, you had a horrible draw, you only have 6 mana on the table.
Yeah.
That's still if you just get Prophet of Kruphix, that's once around the table.
It's also exciting because this card sees play nowhere. Where would you play this card? It was actually someone on Reddit made the suggestion, as a potential win con for Kruphix, and I immediately threw it in, and then went ahead and found a bunch of Eldrazi cards and sleeved them up in appropriate gray sleeves, which and I keep them in the box with the deck in the event that I will get to do this.
You want to read it?
Let's hear that.
Right. So Sponsor of Ulamog is a 7/11 for 10 colorless. It's an Eldrazi with Annihilator 1. He has 2 activated abilities. The first is for 4 colorless without a tap symbol. You may put 2/0/1 colorless Eldrazi spawn creature tokens onto the battlefield, and they, as we know, have the ability to sacrifice this creature to add 1 colorless mana to your mana pool.
And the big one,
most importantly, for 20 colorless mana. And without the tap symbol, you could presumably do this more than once.
Although, why?
Yeah, right.
You shouldn't have to because
it says
for 20 colorless, you may cast any number of Eldrazi cards you own from outside the game without paying their mana costs.
Yeah, so this card is interesting because it says 3 words that you very rarely see on Magic cards, which is outside the game.
Yeah, and people take issue with this. Many people wish you never saw these words. This mechanic is a point of contention, I believe, in the play.
Sponsor of Ulamog, I can see why people take issue of it because it's not like what's in your deck. So it's like, it might be in my hand or my graveyard, but no, it's from anywhere. It could be in Albania.
Yeah.
You would have to fly over and grab those cards, and you could legally cast them if
Usually
you flew back.
It means what this means is in tournament play is in your sideboard. Because you can't do anything from your collection. Now in a kitchen table game, it gets a little bit...
I host my EDH play groups. I can just walk over to the shelf.
Exactly.
But I don't only play at home, so I keep them here. I keep them sleeved up, carry them around with the deck.
And do you have to limit yourself? I don't even know the ruling on this, to singleton still?
Yeah, I'm not sure. I would actually love to hear...
I think so, because I think in EDH, you're not allowed to have 2 of the same card.
In play. I don't know. I mean, I'm not sure. I mean,
you can't be the owner of 2 of the same card that's currently in the game.
You can't be the owner. Yes, you can certainly control another copy of a card if someone else brought it to the table. I don't know the official ruling on that. I've kept to the singleton rule out of respect for the format.
There's still a lot of choices there. You can still drop a whole bunch of Eldrazi on the table and kill everybody.
It's still goofy.
And I think it's very flavorful. You can't be dropping 2 of the biggest guys that already exist, 2 Ulamogs. That doesn't make any sense.
No, kind of most importantly, what really seals the deal is casting All Is Dust and It That Betrays at the same time. So It That Betrays...
You stack it. No, it doesn't matter. You don't even have to.
It's the same time. They interplay at the same time because they're coming into play with the sponsor ability. But so All Is Dust is a colorless
board wipe
tribal sorcery Eldrazi for 7. Each player sacrifices all colored permanents he or she controls, and which is meaningful because it tells us to sacrifice. And now It That Betrays is an 11/11 Eldrazi for 12 with Annihilator 2. Most importantly, he says, whenever an opponent sacrifices a non-token permanent, put that card onto the battlefield under your control.
So you just get everything.
It's just exciting. It's like a Johnny's dream. This is a
and not a Johnny
moment.
the Planeswalker, a Johnny.
No, as the psychographic profile, those who like to build decks that win, but win in their way and create an interesting
style.
Win in style.
Win in style.
What is more stylish than having the God of Horizons, the God of Mystery, tear a hole in the plane and just dump a bunch of these, like colorless like kaiju into wherever you guys are, and just have them eat the world. Like,
there you go. That's an altar right there. It's a kaiju altar.
And that's the flavor. That's kind of like the flavor fun of this deck is that he is the god of mysteries, and he can win in a variety of dramatic and sort of mysterious ways. Like he can fill your brain with too much knowledge so that you die.
Interesting.
He can bring the Eldrazi in. He can do whatever Helix Pinnacle is doing.
I love Helix Pinnacle, which is just 100. It's like 100 mana.
It's hard from a flavor perspective to explain what that card's doing. It's just you want to read it?
I mean, yeah, sure. So it's an interesting enchantment. It's a green enchantment for one green mana. It has Shroud. Just to rub it in.
You don't see a lot of enchantments with Shroud.
Yeah, exactly.
And so it has the ability at instant speed, no tapping. Of course, no tapping. It's an enchantment, but you may pay X colorless to put X tower counters on Helix Pinnacle. At the beginning of your upkeep, if there are 100 or more tower counters on Helix Pinnacle, you win the game.
You win the game.
You just win. So the beginning of your upkeep.
And with Kruphix, not too far out of reach.
Really, really within reach.
In fact, one of the few cards that I think Kruphix is just like, oh yeah, that I can add that to my wheelhouse.
It was an auto include. I think the whole community recognized that at once when they saw Kruphix, and it's actually probably my least favorite way to win. It's pretty boring.
Yeah, I can understand why.
I would prefer to sponsor.
Right. So I mean, obviously you really enjoy the flavor of these cards as you are playing them with the God of Mystery. Do you find that influences your deck building for EDH?
No, we should not have to sacrifice performance in the game in order to have good flavor. Flavor that doesn't actually manifest in the game doesn't matter. It is actually there is inherent value in narrative and flavor and stuff, but I don't care what your deck does if it never does it. If it can do it, if it's like, oh, my deck is so flavorful, it's this cool story, like it's got this thing set up, like this can win in that way, and it's going to be like, does it do that? Do you actually get to do that in the game? Is it good enough to do it? And so if you're playing these games where like your deck has magnificent potential, but it doesn't actually materialize, I don't actually find that valuable as a player. I don't really enjoy that experience. And so I allowed that to push me into a more competitive design space as a player and as a thinker.
Yes, definitely.
Don't you still want to win games?
Yeah, you're trying to you're having fun if you lose, because I don't.
So getting back to the Kruphix deck, what do you find is something that the deck has problems with? Like when the deck stumbles, or when you're not winning games, like
all about those early plays. It's all about the beginning. If you can stick a turn 1 exploration and just like race ahead into the ramping stuff, you're going to be in a great position, because you want to have a big grip, you want to have card advantage, just like any deck. But you're very vulnerable in the beginning when you're you're getting your
Are there certain cards that are just like because you don't? It looks like you have a lot of counters and stuff, but if something actually makes it on the table, like
a good aggressive creature that's just like wailing into me. I mean, in earlier builds, I was running fog effects because I needed time.
Right. But no longer is that an issue.
No longer, it's less an issue now. The ramp package.
What about like
is
a meddling
tighter.
mage or a Nevermore?
That would be brutal. I don't see Nevermore in my
playgroup.
In my playgroup, in my meta. That level of hate has not showed up.
Nevermore, people. Nevermore. If you want to win games and you put Nevermore, like you can shut down basically any EDH. It'll change your whole playgroup.
Yeah.
I imagine
everyone will have to start running exile enchantment effects. Like you have to.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, run removal. Like you should always be running removal, and it should be a diverse package of removal to be able to handle whatever comes your way. But that is a brutal play. I have not.
I mean, are there any other cards that like you could think of that like they hit the table and you're just like, oh crap?
We have a Heartless Hitagetsu deck in the meta, and that is particularly threatening because it's symmetrical and it doesn't matter what I'm doing. It doesn't matter how much mana I have.
And you have trouble.
I can trick bind it once, but like, it's those kind of decks that don't care how much mana I have and are just messing with my life thing. Like, some decks you can consume life as a resource. This is not one of them. You're going to get hit a couple times in the beginning, maybe.
Right.
And
so getting a fast start before you're able to get the mana you need to do silly, crazy shenanigans.
Yeah, and if the playgroup's smart and they've seen what it does, they'll hit you early.
That's what I was thinking is like once you pull out like 15 million mana one time, like I feel like
from that
in our playground, it's like, oh, you flip over that card? All right. Everyone's just going to attack you.
Right, definitely. Yeah, it's like you're going to be threatening later. You're dirtling now, but I know what happens later, so you're dead now.
And it makes it easier for everyone to be like, okay, good. We don't need to argue with each other about who we should swing at.
It's clearly the Kruphix player.
Yeah, it's this guy. Yeah, it's great.
Right, but the as I said before, the point is to is to have enough mana, have enough cards, and have included enough counterspells that you get to laugh that off. It's so wonderful. It's just great to like fight down a whole table that has allied against you, and to just stand there as the god of horizons and just let them like falter. It's great. It's wonderful.
I mean, that's definitely why I play games, is to get to that point where the deck has done what it needs to do, and the commander is being the commander.
Yeah. I mean, every ADH deck has to be designed with that moment in mind, right?
Yeah.
Like where you're going to win, and the whole table can't stop you, even if they like realize it and try
their absolute hardest.
Right.
Yeah.
It's like you guys realized too late.
Yep.
Now, do you find that this deck, if Kruphix just gets countered, hindered, tucked, just sort of falls flat?
No, because the dig is so strong, you're going to get him back.
Right. So, I mean, what would you? I mean, not to.
Actually, if you do lose him and you lose that mana.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking. Is like your dig is basically based on having 50 mana or 100 mana or whatever. So if he gets tucked, then you lose it the next upkeep.
It's pretty rough. It's a scary play. You try to not let those happen.
You just don't open yourself up to it. When do you
right.
Like, on what turn do you cast him? Do you cast him on turn 5, or do you wait until you have like a grip of counter spells?
It's definitely risky. I prefer to cast him before turn 5.
Right, of course.
But I often do turn 5. Let it go. He is indestructible. The tucking effects.
So Hinder's the only thing you're worried about when you do it.
I am definitely scared of Hinder and Spell Crumple for sure. I'm very scared of Ablation. Ablation and Chaos Warp are scary cards to see.
Chaos Warp is very, very scary, and possibly the best red removal there is.
I think it's probably the best red removal for sure, at least in this format.
Yeah, absolutely.
Because it's a singleton format. Like in a regular deck, you have 4 copies of anything, and your deck's a lot thinner. It's not as good.
Tucking is
but in EDH, it's like
It's true. I guess tucking really kind of does shut down any deck that runs around its commander. Now, are there ways outside of card draw that your deck is sort of built to potentially function without its commander? It's a question that we ask of every deck. Does this deck work and still accomplish its synergistical means?
Or at least does it have a chance to? A lot of decks are like, okay, you're going to be crippled, but you might be able to still limp your way across the finish line.
I mean, without Kruphix, without the accumulation of mana, you're still making a lot of it. You're still a very well off blue and green control build.
Right.
You can at least not die.
You can stall for a long time.
You can stall for quite a while.
And that gives you a chance to draw him again and get back on the rails.
Again. And if not, you'll just make 30 mana and Spawn Sire in the middle of your turn.
You can do that naturally even without him. I mean, 30's a lot, but it's not.
Yeah, it definitely happens.
Well, with doubling cube, anything is possible. That's for sure.
Especially if you can untap it once or twice.
Yeah. It's glorious.
I'm guessing you don't very often find yourself attacking with Kruphix. Because he's just not a creature.
I've done it. It's happened, but he doesn't turn on as a creature until you're about to win in other ways. Typically, like
you don't want him to be devoted. You don't want him to be vulnerable, right?
You really don't. Yeah. You want him to stay as ethereal and mysterious as possible. Phyrexian Metamorph copies Doubling Cube. That's fun.
This deck is another testament to the power of Prophet of Kruphix, though. That deck, like, I don't care what your deck's doing. If you're playing green and blue in any combination of whatever other colors, like that card will do something in your deck. Like, just put it in there.
It's excellent.
It's crazy.
I take it you guys saw the alternate art foil they printed in the Clash packs.
Absolutely,
it's absolutely gorgeous.
Beautiful.
Don't have it yet. We need one.
I want one. I need like 4 because I have like 4 decks that have that.
Yeah.
Like every EDH deck I build has Prophet Kruphix in it.
Yeah.
If I go around and look at a deck and it's those colors, I'll think like, well, even if I don't have any decks in these colors, I'll probably need to at least get a couple of Prophet of Kruphixes because they're just going to be so useful.
It's almost like Consecrated Sphinx in the level of whining you hear around it.
Yeah.
Yes.
Like, we have to ban this, and it's like, just kill it.
Well, when you're playing with 9 other people at the table, it's absolutely freaking crazy broken.
That's 9 opportunities for removal. Like,
but it's also 9 times you get to untap your lands
and counter
the removal.
Yeah.
But you have to have the card draw. So
that's true. That's true.
All right, very cool, man. Well, thanks for joining us. Really
no, it's been wonderful. Thank you, guys. I really appreciate it.
I feel like we should play a game of EDH now.
We're going to have to maybe combine our play groups, or maybe like a couple people from, because
absolutely.
I don't think we can support.
We'll take some over.
You should just come to a Sunday gathering, and we'll just we'll break up into smaller pods. That's what we did last time for the first time. We're thinking about I don't know if you guys do this or if any of our listeners do this, but you guys, we're thinking about having a big dry erase marker board. I got one from Goodwill for like $5. It's been in the yard for doing nothing. Or in this, we have a freestanding studio garage. We call it the studio because it sounds cool.
Definitely sounds cool.
Sounds great. It's better than the garage. So we have this huge thing, and I'm thinking about maybe instituting like a merit badge system where like, as we play, we organically award, like, oh, you took out 3 players at once, you get the triple kill merit badge, and you write it up on the board next to your name. Or think about implementing a system like that. And so,
sort of an achievement system.
Yes, exactly. Yes, you guys are totally
achievement unlocked.
Yeah,
triple kill.
I think that'll definitely affect the meta a bit. If someone's like, this week I'm gonna get the quadra kill.
Yeah,
it's gonna happen. I'm gonna kill 4 people at once.
You guys are welcome to come and add your names to that board. Start accumulating merit badges as we do awesome things.
We'll see you there in that case.
That is a cool idea.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much, James. Where can we find you online for those that are interested?
Please follow me on Twitter. My handle is jamespianka.com. That's P like pizza, I, A, N as in Nancy, K as in kitchen, A.
But not .com. James Pianka is your Twitter.
James Pianka?
At James Pianka is my Twitter handle. I have my portfolio is up online at jamespianka.com.
Gotcha.
It's professional, but in this industry, so fun. But if you want to get in touch, Twitter is where I live online. I will be upfront about that. I do not tweet about Magic almost ever. I'm involved in a comedy writing scene on Twitter, and so I am telling jokes and retweeting jokes, and it will very rarely cater to gaming interests. But if you like comedy, I would love to see you.
I don't think I can find anyone that doesn't like comedy.
Right.
So that's great to know. Well, thank you so much for joining us. I'm very excited to see what cards, and except for you to show me the foil versions of the cards that you wrote for.
Yeah, once the set's finally out, you can tell us like which cards are yours. And
absolutely,
then,
and then speak more at length about what it was like to talk about.
Yeah, absolutely.
I will be unshackled by the NDA. Once.
You will be
like
Obnixilis.
Yeah.
We did it, guys. We're bringing Magic into real life all over again.
Yeah, it'll be great.
All right,
guys. Well, thank you so much.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks, guys, for listening, and we'll see you next time.
Hi, everybody. Unfortunately, Jimmy and I will be out of town this week. So next week, that's Tuesday, August 26th, there will be no episode. But don't worry, we've got more great topics and awesome special guests coming up for you starting the first Tuesday in September. So thank you for listening, and stay tuned. Peace.
Thank you for your attention. For further inquiries, send an email to commandcast@rocketjump.com or ask us on Twitter @JFWong and @JoshLeeQuai. See you later, alligator.
Greetings, humans.